If you're a real estate agent and you need to close a deal in the next 30 days, there is one way that is going to be easier and more proven than any other, and that is for sale by owners. But the biggest problem is most people don't have the right approach to the point where they try it and they fail. So today I'm bringing on Alexis Valadares, who's coached over 10,000 agents on prospecting, and we're going to reveal the script format that actually works and how to make it simple, easy, and we roll through live all of the most common objections, from I don't want to work with an agent to I don't want to pay commission to just bring me a buyer. We handle all of them live. Now, two quick things before we're getting started. Number one, I will link Alexis's content below because he's got a ton of it explaining how to do this for expireds and other types as well. And number two, I will link his calendar below in case you would like his support and mine for free to take your business to the next level so that you can get his help on the active prospecting and mine on the passive prospecting. But without further ado, let's bring on Alexis and talk about how to very easily get your next closed deal in the next 30 days following this exact strategy. All right, Alexis, so super excited to have you on here, man. You know, you've been on the channel a couple times now, and one of the things that I love about what you're doing is the average agent, if you look statistically, 72% haven't closed a deal in the last 12 months. And everything that you do helps agents get their next deal for free in any market every time within the next 30 days. And the best part is that I've actually seen your students and the people that you've helped, thousands of them, and they're actually getting real results. And so let's just start diving into what you think is the big problem right now, because I think a lot of agents are distracted and they're hearing, you know, regardless of where you're at in your industry experience, you should go spend money on Facebook ads, you should go spend money over here. Most agents are sitting there saying, well, I got no money. That's the whole thing I'm trying to figure out, right? So based on the conversations you're having, what are you seeing the state of agents right now?
Yeah, well, I think, Mike, obviously what you talk about in your channel is so important, social media and AI, which is where we all want to get to, a point where people are coming to us for business. But most of us, when we get into the business, we have zero credibility, zero money, and we don't have time to wait until we cash our first check. And what I train agents to do is to properly identify the right for sale by owner opportunities in their market, make the phone calls, say the right things, set qualified listing appointments, and actually convert them. And all you need to do that is a cell phone, Zillow.com, and the proper training. The problem that I see agents making is that they think that they can rely on somebody else. Like they think by buying leads from, Facebook or Zillow or Sync or whatever platform they use, they think that's going to cure the problem. More leads equals more money. But the truth is, Mike, and you know this very well, it's that more skill is going to equal more closings. If you just learn how to talk better, communicate at a higher level to the leads you already have, I think you'd convert more business. So I think that's the stem of the problem, is that agents don't realize that what they need to go after is training and skills, communication frameworks, and not just more leads.
Yeah, I agree. I think many agents default to always thinking that they have a lead problem, but the reality is leads are very easy. Converting them is the problem that most face, right? And we could talk about this, about how, you know, even the majority of your first deals can come from your cell phone, of just the Rolodex that's in there from people that you know, let
Yep.
alone being able to go contact the right people. And, you know, I've seen you do training live with people and be able to help them with what you and I both know is the number one skill in real estate or any business, which is communication. And if you have the right things to say, a lot of these calls aren't that overwhelming. I think a lot of agents will hear what you said, FSBO or expired, and that's an immediate trigger. Just like me coaching agents on YouTube, they're like, oh, I got to be on video. It's like a roadblock, right?
Yep.
But a lot of that fear stems from just not knowing the right things to say, so they're fearful of the objections. But as I've seen you role play live, when you know how to handle any given situation, your confidence level is so much higher, to the point where you're not so emotionally attached to the potential objection that you might get. So maybe let's walk through what strategy you recommend people, you know, starting with when it comes to saying, okay, I've got a phone, I've got some websites. What the heck should I do in the next 30 days to put food
Mhm.
on the table?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think first of all, and one of my students, Vanessa from the Detroit market, she's actually with us as well. She said it's the biggest takeaway I've had with coaching with you for the last year is that it's literally just a conversation. Like that's all it is. It's just a conversation with a human that is literally raising their hand and needs your help. And I think to answer your question, Mike, the narrative is so important. Like the people that you're surrounding yourself with is so important. If your agents that you're in your market with are saying that cold calling is dead, cold calling doesn't work, the market sucks, business is not happening, that's what you're going to be feeding your mind. That's a result that you're going to get in your business. So I think number one, it's like just surrounding yourself around people that are making these calls and actually giving you the proper feedback and the proper sales techniques. After that, it's really just identifying strategy. Let's say in any given market, Miami, Florida, there's 350 to 400 for sale by owner opportunities. Out of those 350, there's only going to be about 30% that are actually going to convert into listings on the market. So you have to, number one, know what you're looking for. And number two, I deal with this a lot. Agents are like, well, I'm going to wait until I have the script down packed. I'm going to wait until I know exactly what to say to get on the phone. And I think it's quite the opposite. You have to get on the phone, understand the problems that these for sale by owners are having. And once you do enough of that, you're going to realize it's all the same thing. They're all having the same problem. You're going to get the same set of objections and you're going to just have the same conversation on repeat. Once you learn how to do the boring stuff, you're going to learn your numbers, your KPIs, and it's going to become a mathematical equation at that point.
100%. And so let's talk about that because that's, the majority of top producing agents that I've met, especially from the States, because in Canada it's not as common slash in some provinces it's illegal. But most started with for sale by owners and expired listings. And
Mm-hmm.
like you alluded to, these are the lowest hanging fruit people that have already raised their hand, said, I want help, and they just want to achieve the outcome. And so let's talk just very layman's terms, because what I would love to do, I think this is probably going to provide the most value to people on this conversation here, is I want to roll through some of the most common objections, like how you handle
Mm-hmm.
them, right? So that people can start to steer their way through at least
Yep.
their first couple conversations. But
Yep.
before getting there, like walk us through the initial approach. Like somebody's saying, okay, I don't even know where to find FSBOs. I don't even know how to contact them. Like from the most basic terms, how do you get started? Then we can get into some of the scripting aspects.
Yeah. So first thing you want to do, Mike, is obviously go on Zillow and learn your market and pay attention to what's happening in the for sale by owner market. Is it a lot of single family homes, townhomes, condos, and really niche down. For me, in my market, which might be the same in other markets, condos always took longer to close when I was in my heavy production days. So I would only filter and target single family homes, townhomes that were 500,000 and above. When you go on Zillow, and I have videos on my YouTube channel as well talking about this, you can create an auto email to your email, create a separate email, Mike Sherrard sells for sale by owners at gmail.com, and put a special ringtone on that email that'll notify you when a brand new for sale by owner comes on the market. And the speed to lead, the ones that I've listed that I've gotten sold, are the ones that I've called the first. I'm the first agent to call, and I beat the entire stampede of agents that are going to call, because if you're the 15th, 20th, 30th agent, you can still get the deal. It's just much harder to stand out when they've already heard the same pitch 30, 40, 50 times. So that's really my first tactical tip I can give you. It's like really niche down, figure out the areas you're going to target, the property types you're going to target, the price points, and then set up that auto search email. That way you're the first agent to call once they come on the market officially.
I love that. And so from your experience, and this is coming from somebody that's completely oblivious to FSBOs, is that something that is coming on the market at any given time of the day? Or is
Yep.
there like a normal, like, so it can come on the market 1 p.m., 9 a.m., kind of doesn't really matter?
So typically, what they'll do is they'll submit the listing to Zillow, and it usually takes a few hours, sometimes over 24 hours to process. Once it's officially on Zillow, where people can call, we get that notification. But the people calling on Vulcan Dialer, RedX, Mojo, they're not getting that number imported into their call log until the next day.
Hmm.
Right? It's not syndicating right away to those platforms that everybody uses. That's why I train my agents to manually hand dial for sale by owners from their cell phone, because they're taking the speed to lead approach and they're beating out all of the other agents calling. So if a property goes on the market 7 p.m. and you call them 7:05 p.m., all the other agents are not going to be calling till 8, 8:30, 9 a.m. the next day. You could potentially already have a listing appointment 8 a.m. the next day. Get that
Yeah.
property off the market, listed with yourself before, anybody else even calls. Now, that's obviously a rare case. 6 to 8 weeks is like the money zone for conversion. Most agents, I think you've seen the stat, it's very common. Most agents don't follow up more than twice. And there is a conversion mechanism that goes with for sale by owners, and you don't need to be super skilled or super talented to just look at your CRM and say, pick up the phone and touch base, provide value, be a human, serve, genuinely provide value with the conversation. Don't just say, hey, Mike, I'm just checking in, I'm just following up, are you ready to list with an agent? Bring them real value. Tell them what's going on in the market. Tell them what you're seeing in other properties that you're listing that's actually working, and give them strategy, give them a reason to want to sit down with you.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we will get into some of these scripting aspects, but I think before we do, you and I both know that the number one thing is mindset, in the sense that, I always said, because I door knocked instead of cold called, and I always said that the hardest door is your car door, right? Just getting out of the door, out of the car. Once you hit that first door, you realize usually most people are actually genuine, decent humans, and they're not going to tell you to F off, and they're going to kindly reject you if it doesn't work out. And then you go on to the next one because you realize, hey, it's not that hard. But I've coached back in the day when I was door knocking. I was helping other agents with door knocking in my market, that were working together with me, and they mentally struggled so much with just the concept of randomly knocking on somebody's door because they felt solicitational, they felt annoying, they felt spammy.
Mhm.
And so for you, just working with so many people that have gotten over that call reluctance or that fear of cold calling mentally, what's your advice for people on the mindset side in order to come into this properly ready to go? Quick pause. If you're watching this feeling stuck, overwhelmed by all the noise, tired of chasing leads, unsure of how to close consistent deals every month with clients coming directly to you for free, I want you to know something. That's exactly where the agent you're listening to right now was before we started working together. And if you want the same support, the same system, and access to all of my social media and AI training, daily live mastermind calls, and direct mentorship, completely free, no extra split, no extra cost, click the link in the description to book a call. We'll talk about partnering together so that you could be the next success story that we're telling on my YouTube channel. Now let's get back into the interview.
I think number one, understanding that most agents that are doing for sale by owner are newer agents. Once you're a top producing agent, let's say you got to the top producing agent by for sale by owners, you're naturally going to pivot away, build your team, run paid leads. I think just understanding that if you have a good broker behind you and a good group of agents behind you, and you have information at your disposal, you are better than most agents. If you have integrity, honesty, and you're willing to actually just put in the work to do the right research, that puts you ahead of most agents. And when it comes to for sale by owner, if you look at the stats, if you allow them to do for sale by owner, you are doing them a disservice, because they're going to sell for significantly less, even if they save on the commission on both sides. So it's just about reframing that approach from I'm being pushy, I'm being spammy, I'm being salesy, to I'm being helpful. I'm serving this individual that spent 12 years paying down the equity of their home, helping them understand how to properly position their home in the market in front of the right buyers to get the end result that they're actually looking for. Right?
Definitely.
So if you're not preparing, if you're not in the right broker, if you're not in the right group, if you're not getting the right tools and resources, maybe you will feel that way. But if you genuinely come from a place of help, you'll never feel that way. You'll be able to, you'll get the no 5, 6, 7, 10 times, and you'll still be able to go around it, and they'll appreciate it, especially when you learn the right communication approach.
Yeah, and I was hoping you were going to say that in terms of, coming in with the right perspective of genuinely helping, because, for me, that was what I convinced myself of when I was door knocking, which is why I was so effective, is like, what are the very, you know, contrasting examples we always use is like, if you had the cure for cancer, would you keep it to yourself or would you tell everybody on the planet? Well, you would knock every door, make every call, put out every video. Like you would do whatever it takes to make sure that if somebody had this disease and you had the cure, you would get in front of them. And so for me, I was so convinced in the beginning when I was door knocking that if somebody behind that door was looking to sell, I would go above and beyond. I would pour more into marketing exposure and do everything to genuinely help these people. And so the way that I delivered the message came from a very helpful, genuine, relatable place. Whereas the
Right.
agents who struggle with door knocking or cold calling came from that very solicitational place where they're just thinking about commission and they've got commission breath. And so I think that's an important perspective shift for people to have, that, like you alluded to with the numbers, like you're doing a disservice to these people by not helping them achieve the outcome. The outcome that they want is to just make as much money on their home as possible. Well, if you know statistically that that's not the case by doing it the way, but they believe it, it's your job to shift their perspective and show them a
Hmm.
different plan. And so
Exactly.
knowing that, let's talk about that plan. And so somebody's saying, okay, the majority of FSBOs are fully convinced that they are going to make more money by saving the commission, by not working with an agent. They hate real estate agents, think that they're useless, and they're like pretty firm standing in their ground. And so that's pretty much the avatar of the average FSBO. And
Right.
so you've got a number that came in and you're ready to go. Where the heck do we start?
Yeah. So I think the first thing that most agents get incorrect is the opening part of the phone call, right? You have to understand that even if you're the first person, these for sale by owners likely did some sort of research and talked to other people that have been for sale by owner before, or maybe they've had experience for sale by owner before, and they know they're about to get a bunch of realtor calls. So if you call for sale by owner, you're like, "Hey, Mike, this is Mike with eXp Realty. I'm calling about the property on 157 Forest Drive. How are you today?" If you just call them, like, I would never call you, you're my friend, I would never call you with a high pitch salesy voice. I'd call you with my normal downtone, low, "Hey Mike, what's going on, man? How's your day going?" Right. So I think that opener, the key points that I like to teach is never say the company right up front, and don't say the full address, and always start with an either or question. Most agents will say, is it still available? I like to ask, is it still available, or have you already found a buyer for it? Right. So it'll sound a little bit like this. "Hey, Mike.
Hey,
Hey, yeah, Mike, it's actually Alexis. Really quickly, I'm not sure if you can help me. I just clicked on a home on 15th Street. Is that property still available by chance, or did you already happen to find a buyer for it?"
no, it's still available.
As simple as that. They'll usually ask, "Are you a realtor or are you a buyer?" And you'll quickly say, "Look, Mike, I'm going to be honest with you. I am an agent. I'm going to keep this super short. I have one quick question. If I connected you with a client that had the proper offer that made sense to you financially, is that an idea that you're open to at this point, as long as you got the numbers that you're looking for?" And that right there always stays the same.
Yeah.
That's what we call our opening line. Notice the language of most agents will say, "Mike, if I brought you a buyer, would you pay me a commission?" They're
Yeah.
already talking in terms of them. I like to talk in terms of you. What's important to you? "Mike, if I connected you with a client," I don't like using the word buyer because they're going to label you as a buyer's agent. "If I connected you with a client that had the proper offer for you that you're looking for and that made you and your family feel comfortable, are you open to the idea of collaborating as long as it made sense for you?" Always in terms of them. That's
Yeah.
exactly how I would start that for sale by owner call.
100%. And I think that's just good marketing and lead generation language anyway, where I think a lot of people, whether it's prospecting, whether it's, content, the agents who struggle to convert, a lot of their content is always predicated on their own industry experience of what they believe is valuable.
Mhm.
But I always tell people, like, the only thing somebody on the other side of the phone, door, or screen is thinking of is what's in it for me, right? Because people only care about
Exactly.
three things, which is me, myself, and I. And so
Yeah.
we have to put it in that language in order to seem very genuine and actually care, like you're
Right.
talking about. And
Right.
so from my experience, because I've worked with people that have done, FSBOs before, the two common things that I hear most is wanting to save the commission and why don't you just bring a buyer? Right.
Yep.
And so I think those are probably the two that we could probably unpack here, because those are probably the most common, unless you think otherwise.
No, for sure. You're 100% correct. It's I don't want to pay commission. I want to do it on my own. It's all a group of objections that are in relation to I want to save money,
Hmm.
and then just bring me the buyer. I don't want to work with a listing agent.
Yeah.
Right. So we can definitely unpack those if you'd like.
Yeah. Let's go first with the commission one, right? Because that's, I think, going to be the first, objection, which is, they're calculating in their mind. They've already done the calculation of whatever 5-6%, and they say, I don't want to deal with any of this, or at
Right.
least I want to save half of it. And so, how does somebody handle that?
Yeah, I think the first principle that we like to teach, Mike, is understand what they mean. Don't go off based of what they're saying. When
Hmm.
someone says to you, I don't want to pay a commission, a lot of realtors that are not experienced, they believe them. Oh, this person's not paying a commission. They're closed minded. I guess I'm going to go on to the next prospect. When I hear, I don't want to pay a commission, I hear an individual saying, you know what, Alexis, I want to do everything I can to protect the equity that I've worked for. I've been in this home for 10 plus years. I've worked my butt off to pay these mortgage payments, and I want to do the right thing. And right now, I don't have anybody I can trust to get me to that finish line. So I want to do this on my own. That's what I hear. So if you tell me, Alexis, I don't want to pay a commission, I'll say, Mike, that's totally fair. And I actually really respect that genuinely. I know that right now you're selling for sale by owner. And the reason why you're not wanting to pay a commission, I'm assuming, is because you want to make sure you do everything you can to sell the property for the absolute most amount of money. Is that fair to say? They're always going to say, yeah, that's exactly why I want to do this.
Yeah.
That's fair. So now we're reframing their mindset from scarcity thinking, negative thinking, I want to save, to I just want to maximize. Right. And you can say something like, Mike, look, I just get the feeling that you're the kind of person that wants to do everything they can to make sure they're taking the best route to actually get this result. Is that right? Even if that meant weighing out your options? Is that a fair
Of
assumption?
course.
Of course, I would love to weigh out my options. Right. And look, Mike, I know that right now in your mind, using an agent is something you'd never consider, only if it absolutely made you a significant more amount of money. Right. Oh, I guess you're right. Right. And notice I'm not telling them, Mike. I'm not saying you should use an agent because for sale by owner is not good. You're not going to have a good time on the market, right? You're going to sell for significantly less. You should use me because I'm with EXP and I do X, Y, and Z. What did you say earlier? They're going to believe me, myself, and I. So if you don't go through a sequence of questions that's going to get them to vocalize themselves that they are doing something that may not be the best route, you're never going to get the appointment because they're
Yeah.
never going to believe
I
you. They're going to believe themselves.
100%. And I think that's there's so many principles that cross over, because one of the biggest marketing lessons that I ever learned is that people just want to achieve outcomes, but
Mhm.
most people focus on features. And so when I look at people's funnels or landing pages or lead magnets or websites or their value proposition or their listing presentation, it's all just feature dumping. And it's, look at all these little features and trinkets that I do, right? But in the reality of it, the best marketers, the best, people who are in our space in terms of conversion, they focus on the outcomes. All that you want to do is help them achieve the outcome, and they don't care how they get there as long as they achieve the
Exactly.
outcome. And so, like you're saying, so many people will make these calls and their entire thing is feature dumping. Here's what I'll do. Here's what I'll do above anybody else. And here's the stats. And here's this. But like you said, your approach is, I want to get clarity on the outcome you're looking to achieve. And if I could help you achieve that outcome, are you open minded? Well,
Yep.
now you've got that ammunition to be able to get clarity and get some common ground. But if you don't have that common ground, the conversation's going to be a little shaky, right?
Right. And most realtors get really combative. They'll hear the I don't want to pay commission and they'll say, why not?
Yeah.
Don't you think that's not a good idea? Don't you think it makes sense to collaborate with buyer's agents? And that's never going to create that common ground for both of you to stand on. And it's not just, shaking them off and saying, look, I respect that, Mike, and sounding like you're not really meaning it. It's like, look, Mike, I genuinely understand where you're coming from. I'm looking at the property record. You've been here for 15 years. You've been here for 5 years. You've probably done everything you can to pay off this home. And now you want to do everything you can to protect your equity. And you don't trust realtors. Is that right?
Hmm.
That's fair. And they're going to just lower their guard. They're going to start kind of dumping on you a little bit about what's going on and what's behind the whole. A great question that I like to ask is like, Mike, I'm not sure if you mind me asking this, but is there a reason besides the commission that has you wanting to sell it for sale by owner? Or is it really just the commissions that's holding you back from taking a look at different alternatives? I'm never using the language like signing with an agent, listing with a realtor, working with a listing agent. I'm just using very neutral language that doesn't trigger them. to go into immediate sales resistance, because a lot of agents use trigger words: realtor, listing agent, commission, signing, contract. Don't use those words. Collaboration, idea of, would it be a possibility? Is that something you're closed-minded to? Right? They always want to, these prospects always want to be in control. The second you make them feel like you're trying to take control, they're going to want to run. If they're running away from you, they're not going to give you the truth to the questions that you're asking them.
100% agree. Yeah, I'm so glad you said the word trigger word, because that was just what was going in my mind, is like, we want to dismantle all of these objections by avoiding those trigger words, because that's immediate, just guard up, right? And you said something very subtly that I want to make sure people don't overlook, that I think is incredibly important, which is, you've been at this property for 15 years, you pulled up like the property report. Now, what that begs me to ask is, okay, this email comes in, you get a property. Is there anything you should quickly do in order to give yourself some ammunition? Is it looking at the photos? Is it like for somebody to be able to get the email and say, okay, I want to be armed and ready for this conversation to bring real value? Is there like a quick 5-minute exercise that you get people to do in order to come in prepared?
45 seconds. So once you get good at it, 45 seconds to a minute, you go through the photos, get an idea of whether the property's vacant, occupied, furnished, not furnished, condition. Description will tell you a lot about where they're at as a for sale by owner. Are they a new for sale by owner? Are they an investor? Are they an experienced for sale by owner? And then property records. I personally like to use propstream.com. I'm sure there's a lot of great free tools on the MLS that you can use that will tell you, the equity that they have, how long they've been there, mortgage details, and names of the owner. It's more powerful to say, hey, Mike, than to say, hey, is this a property owner over on 15th? So very important though, I don't want you to spend 5 minutes doing research on a property where they might just not even answer the phone or hang up after 30 seconds. I want you to spend 45 seconds to a minute doing some quick homework. And if you get them to engage in the conversation, it's going well. Only then will you do research after you've set a qualified appointment. That's 100%. The golden rule.
That makes complete sense. No, I love that. I just wanted to make sure that people know kind of how to approach this. And so the other objection that I think is going to be very common, which kind of leads into, your opening statement, right, of where you talked about if you were able to bring a client, right? Well, the next logical question that's going to follow that is, sure, bring me a buyer, right? Just bring me a buyer. And that's usually probably the first objection most people would face even before the commission. And so knowing that, what's your take on how to handle just bring me a buyer?
Yeah. So first principle, Mike, is that we don't want to position ourselves as a buyer's agent. So obviously any realtor, and especially agents that are working with us in our community, we have access to buyers all around the country. We have access to agent group chats and different networks that truly have buyers ready to go. So the first thing I'll do is I'll be like, look, Mike, obviously the reason why you're asking me that question is because you obviously want to maximize the result of this home and sell this property for the most amount net. Is that your main objective here? Get confirmation on that. Mike, the last thing I want to do is waste your time. You're getting a bunch of these calls from agents just so I understand your priorities. Number one is to make the most amount of money. Number two, if I did bring you a client, what does the closing process look like in terms of timeline? Are you okay with a 30 to 45 day close, or do you feel like you need some extra time? And now we're shifting the conversation towards motivation. I want to get 4 key things. It's called DART. This has been talked about before. I didn't come up with this. I want to make sure that I don't take credit for it. You got to make sure they have desire to sell. On a scale of 1 to 10, what is that desire? Do I kind of want to sell? If it sells, or do I need to sell? Right. And I'll remember this from Leo. Leo said it on one of your mastermind calls. We are going after people that need to sell right now. So that's number one. Do they have a desire? Do they have an ability to sell? And do they have a reason and a timeline? So once I get that, I'll kind of just shift it into questioning them right back and saying, what are you even looking for in that buyer in terms of timeline for it to make sense for you? Right. Yeah. And then I'll say, look, Mike, it sounds like your main priority is to get over to Florida to your grandkids as fast as possible and with the most amount of money in your pocket. I know that the first thing you want me to do is just bring you a buyer out of my back pocket. But from what you're telling me, to get that outcome, we would need a proper strategy. But I'm assuming, Mike, and I get the feeling that even if I told you that I had a better way to position your home in front of those actual buyers through marketing, I'd get the feeling that you would tell me you'd never consider that. Is that right? You see how we kind of go from bring me a buyer to getting their criteria and then
Yeah.
saying, if I actually shared with you what would I have to do to bring you those buyers, you would never even give me a chance, right? And that language just makes them calm down. Sales resistance goes to the ground, and they'll kind of tell you, well, I mean, it's not that I wouldn't consider it. I just want to do it on my own. I want to wait 30, 45 days. And then we kind of pivot back into some other objections that I'd be happy to go over.
Yeah, that makes sense. And so I guess the next question that I have is, okay, there's a suite of objections that we could go through, but
Yeah.
we've covered the two primary ones. And then the next logical thing that I think people get hung up on, or maybe um, don't approach the proper way, is going to be the close. And so you get through the conversations, you're able to handle some of the objections in a value driven way, and then I see a lot of people that don't know how to approach the rest of the conversation, and they lose lead opportunities. And
Yeah.
so after you've kind of gone through the meat of the conversation, what's the next step? Is it, we say something and you get a contract on the phone, you say something and you go visit the property. So what's that next gradual step when it comes to actually getting them secured as a client?
Yeah. So I think always remembering that the goal of the phone call is to set a qualified listing appointment. That's number one. So if you go for that and you absolutely are having zero luck getting it, you want to then reposition yourself into follow up where you're going to be an asset and a resource for them while they try to sell it on their own. Whether that be offering support and market research, whether that be hosting an open house for them for free in order to try to bring a buyer genuinely. The sequence is first, always try to get a qualified listing appointment. Then, if you cannot get a qualified listing appointment, try to get a preview appointment. Try to get your foot in the door where they're at least showing you the property and you're building that face to face connection. Things change once you're face to face. And lastly, if they don't want to give you that face to face, you go into, hey, look, is it okay if I stay in touch with you while you do this on your own so I can genuinely provide value and be a resource for you while you sell it on your own? And usually, if we get to that point, I'll say something like, Mike, I completely respect that the fact that you're totally closed minded right now. Obviously, you want to give this a shot on your own. Say for whatever reason, and hopefully it's not the case, 2 or 3 months go by and you don't get the offer that you're looking for. Would it be the worst idea at that point to sit down and consider a couple different options that could get you to the result and get you to Florida closer to your grandkids? Would that be a horrible idea? They're never going to say no. They'll be like, no, it wouldn't be a horrible idea. I guess we'll consider it then. What I'll
Mhm.
follow then is, instead of saying, are you open to working with another agent? That's what most realtors would say. I'd say, and I get the feeling, Mike, that when that time comes, you're going to be fully forced and committed to work with a specific agent. Even if you found a better option that could net you more money, you wouldn't be able to explore that, would you? And then they'll be like, I'm never forced to do anything. I'm not obligated to do anything. And some people are probably like, that would never work. And I'm telling you that I listen to real live calls of agents all around the country every single day using these lines and having success. People that have never made cold calls before in their first 2 weeks are landing listing appointments with these prospects. And again, it's not about skill or talent. It's going to take time to get that good. But if you just learn how to follow up properly and genuinely provide value and be a resource, you will get them to turn around in 6 to 8 weeks. And one more thing I'll add, Mike, is a lot of people don't realize that whether they're getting leads from social media, their Sphere, their brokers, Zillow, or open houses, these are all common objections that we get anyways. I don't want to work with a realtor. I want to do it on my own. I have a family member that I'd work with if I were to do it, right? I want to wait 6 months until the rates go down. All these objections you're going to get with any lead source. So what I tell people is, like, if you don't have a lot of for sale by owners in your market, but you want to become a good agent, call for sale by owners in other markets, manage to learn the skill set, and that skill set will transfer to your negotiations, your cold calls, and your presentations.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And so, you know, there's so much that we could talk about, but all of this, and one of the principles that I love about, when I go to your event, you really focus on communication as a whole and as a skill, because I see a lot of people and they try to be and I love this about you is that they try to be like the FSBO guy or the expired girl or whatever, and you take more of an approach of like, I want to be the communication coach. Like I want to help you with your communication because communication helps you verbally with prospecting and content. Written communication helps with AI. Like
Yep.
everything stems from communication. And so from somebody that has helped people go from, shy introverts with terrible communication to people that are crushing out calls and actually getting closed deals and significant commission checks, what's kind of your best advice for somebody to take their communication skills to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, and look, it might sound cliche, but this is the answer that I've given at every single event that I've ever spoken at. It's you got to find someone that's mastered the skill that you want to learn and that has a process to teach it to you, your avatar, your experience, the way that you learn. And I think that's very important to understand in any mentor. It's not just, okay, Mike has achieved all this great success on social media. It's like, can Mike understand my issues? And does he have a system and a process where I can learn it? I think that'd be the most important part. Not just go find a coach, go find a mentor, but really go pick someone that's in the niche that you want to learn and that understands your problem, not your competitor's problem, not the realtor down the street's problem, but your problem. If they can solve your problem and they can explain your pain points, that usually means they have a good system and a process to get you over the hump and get you to where you want to go.
Yeah, definitely.
But just like we criticize Mike for sale by owners for wanting to do it on their own, we do the same thing and we just go on YouTube, which is great, and then we try to figure it out on our own. And it's
Yeah.
statistically proven that agents that get coached and mentored with the right support have far greater success than the ones that don't. It's always going to cost you more to not know what to do faster than to make an investment or a switch into the right group of support that's going to get you on your way much quicker. And
Yeah,
that's
and
the
I
mindset shift.
think, it's important because, one of the things that I always learned from Tony Robbins is repetition is the mother of mastery. And, oftentimes people are going to, make that first call and then they're going to go through, that valley of despair, which is they make their first call
Mhm.
or their first five, and then they're going to not get a listing. And then they're going to say it doesn't work for them. And then they're going to give up and they're going to go on to the next thing, when in reality, like if you look at the people that you've worked with and the people that I've worked with, after a certain number of repetitions, if you have the right strategy, if you have the right feedback loops of being able to identify where
Right.
you're going wrong, it's nearly impossible not to get better, right? It all comes down to learning a new skill, whether it's a new sport, new hobby, new passion, traveling a new country, right? First time you go there, you have no idea where to go. If you keep going back every year, it
Yep.
becomes like a second home, right? That's just through repetition. And so a lot of people give up before they even have a chance to succeed because they're waiting for that instant gratification where they think if I've got the perfect script, which doesn't exist, that I should just get that first one, right? And I
Right.
think people need to embrace that this is a process, but it's also a skill that's going to transfer to everything in life because even if you get a listing presentation through a referral, right, you're going to get objections. And that comes down to communication. And everything we do as agents, the best communicator wins every time.
Every single time, man. And I mean, I've had students that tell me that their marriage has gotten better. The way that they communicate with their kids about doing chores around the house has gotten better because they learn how to understand the psychology of how the other human interprets information and ultimately decides. And once you learn, it's a very key principle. You look at the best salesmen on the internet right now, they're always prioritizing the prospect's needs and emotions first. They're always asking questions and they're always trying to lead the prospect down a funnel of questions that's going to get to the end result versus
Yeah,
telling. Telling is not selling. Asking the right questions will always get you to the result that you're looking for.
I agree. I think, I've always said that questions control conversations. And so many
Yep.
people just want to word vomit all over the place and think that if they just, again, feature dump the best slew of features,
No
that
one
suddenly
cares.
that they're going to win. Right. And nobody cares. And so, you said the magic's in the follow up and, we don't have time to go into that today. But for people that do want the full system, right, there's an opportunity for them to be able to partner with you as well as myself and get, your help on the active prospecting side, my help on the passive prospecting side entirely for free. And so I always like to ask, you and I are partners over here at EXP. Why did somebody as successful as yourself decide to come over to EXP with a number of agents? And what can people expect when partnering with you to get that full system so that they can just go straight to what works today?
Yeah, I think it's about having a complete package, Mike, right? And, I don't know if I'm allowed to share this story, but I was at EXP previously and I was around great people, great mentors. And one of my inner circle students introduced me to the idea of your group. And I actually had to leave for 6 months. And that was a decision that was a no brainer for me when I saw what value proposition you've put together for agents from A through Z, not just active prospecting, passive prospecting, AI, social media, and systems. Because you could learn how to communicate. That's amazing. You're going to get your first few deals. But once you have 5 deals running at the same time, how do you leverage that momentum into social media? How do you leverage all of those inbound leads now into a system where you can buy your time back? Because once you're doing 4 deals a month, you're going to go to inspections, appraisals, showings, and you're going to have all these things on your plate that usually removes the ability to prospect. So I want my agents to feel full support, not just from cold calling, but from every other part of the equation. And I feel like our group at the Wolfpack, man, I mean, the numbers speak for themselves, but 100% offers that entire package. And for me, I don't know if you can gather it through the video, but I genuinely care. I genuinely care about this business changed my life. If you want to look at my story, you can go on my YouTube channel. I was just a golf caddy that was carrying golf bags for $100 a day, and learning the art of communication took me from a six-time college dropout that had no sphere of influence, no social media following, to an agent that sold over $1 million in commissions in 3 years. And I'm passionate about doing that for other people that want to learn how to do the skill. So that would be my
100%.
my main.
Yeah, man, it's
answer.
important. Like we always tell people that the most expensive thing you can own is a closed mind. And I've seen so many agents that have gone from the verge of quitting to then going and breaking multiple six figures in the next 12 months just because they're around the right people, you're a product of your environment, and also they had the right strategies where they can remove the thought from it. I think that's where a lot of agents go wrong is they wake up every day, they don't have a plan, they spend all their day thinking about what they could or should be doing, and then
Mhm.
they're just spinning their tires instead of saying, okay, there's people here who genuinely care, who are here to help for free, that will just put you on the track of proving the success and go straight to what works. So you wake up every day, you know what you got to do, and you rinse and repeat,
Right.
and it works out every single time. And so, with that being said, again, guys, you can click that link in the description, have that conversation with Alexis, and see how we can help. And if it's a good fit, great. If not, that's totally okay. But again, it's important to be able to have that educated decision by getting the right information. And if you're not where you want to be today, this might just be the sign that you were looking for in order to get to that next level. So, Alexis, dude, thank you so much, man, for coming on, sharing your incredible scripts, your perspective, and everything you do to help agents go from struggling to successful.
Yeah. Thank you for the opportunity, Mike. It's always a pleasure, man. And we're here to help anybody that wants to have a conversation with us. Like Mike just said, if it's a good fit, great. If not, that's amazing as well. I guarantee that you'll leave that conversation with more clarity and direction on how to hit your goals this year. Thanks, man.
100%. Well, guys, make sure you like, comment, subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Click those links and go take massive action.